When you're a stage 4 cancer patient, you do not want influenza A, but I did. Here's the story. Here's the day that I found out that I had the flu A, and yeah, it's just not ideal. There's a reason why you try to be careful and stay away from people who are sick. I had no idea how I got it, but my GP has told me that half of Highfields has it, so I guess it was just floating around and I picked it up. And especially with having a low immune system, because it seems like I just picked up everything this year, from pneumonia to colds, and from pneumonia to almost getting better to having colds and everything, it just melded in. So I really had no idea that I had the flu. I was just feeling not so good, as you will see. So first of all, I start out by getting a blood test. So here I am debriefing after that. The cockatoos are happy tonight, but yep, keep watching on.
Oh man, I am feeling so crap. I just had a blood test. I'd often get my camera out around blood tests because blood tests always make me nervous. But things have been going so well for so long. And so I'm like, I don't need to film every time I have a blood test necessarily. And yeah, I was just focused on doing what I need to do. And I guess because there was normally something to talk about, I would get the prompt to film, but I kind of just stopped doing that and started rushing off to blood tests, doing what I needed to do afterwards. Today was not that day. Kind of started last week. Last week I had somebody, and I always ask, and this is probably one of the reasons why I have been going okay with blood tests, I always ask for a butterfly needle. And I thought that they were smaller needles for my very small veins. Somebody had told me along the way that they're not smaller needles. And I can't remember why a butterfly needle suits me better, but it just does. And I'm feeling really, really bad. I'll get onto that later. Anyway, I also know that SNP, Sullivan-Nicolaides pathology here in Australia, shame on them, discourage their collectors to use butterfly needles because they're a more expensive needle. So that's what happened last week when I requested a butterfly needle. The girl said, "Why do you want a butterfly?" She was really arrogant, actually. She was nice enough, but she had an arrogant manner. And I asked her, "How long have you worked there?" She was young. 3 years. And I'm like, I can remember when I had worked 3 years somewhere when I was younger. I thought that was a long time. And now, well, I haven't been working, but now all my friends I went through university with have all been working for 30 years. And I'm like, 3 years is nothing. Anyway, but 3 years, she would have got a bit of experience. Yeah, so she said to me, it's bad collectors. Can you let me have a go? Let me have a go and I'll show you how it's good. Now, she did it. It all went fine, but it did hurt more. And I ended up with a bruise, which I often don't with butterfly needle. But I'm like, it didn't hurt excruciatingly. Today, the collector pulled out a normal needle. Sorry, this isn't probably the best place to film. I'm going to go in and grab, because I had to fast beforehand. Just wanted to grab something from the bakery before I went home. And there was someone in the car there. There's people walking everywhere. I probably need to stop filming. Okay, I'm home. O'Donnell's Bakery over in Wilsonton in Toowoomba is a great little bakery. I've got something for the kids when they get home this afternoon. And if I can get out, I got myself a Danish for breakfast because after the, I shouldn't say trauma, that's like over-exaggerating. After the upsetting incident this morning, I felt like I needed a treat. Plus, I've had this cold for so long that I think just all the gunk has just coated my tongue and I'm not tasting very much anyway. So all my normal breakfast foods are not hitting it. Yep, so what happened this morning was I didn't ask for the butterfly. She, you know, went, okay, sharp prick, like they normally do. And then it hurt a lot. I swore. It's not a good Christian influence, I know, I'm sorry. Occasionally I swear. I swore, and then I cried, and then I opened my eyes and looked, and there was a spot of blood where the needle was. And I know that that was okay. It didn't stop the blood collection happening, but I know that that was a sign that things weren't going as well as they could. And the problem is I have a lot of bloods to collect. When they don't use the butterfly needle, they've got to click in the little tube every time, and that just was killing every time. And I have more bloods than usual to collect because it's a trial and they want to test for everything. And yeah, so it was just hurting a lot. I would just keep my eyes closed and I was kind of crying. I was just a wuss because when things start going wrong with my veins, I just have no resilience at all. And I wanted to go back to the car, process, have a quick chat to you. Plus, I'd been wearing a mask because I sound horrible, even though I think it's all infection. So I need to get that off. I needed to have a good cough. I needed to blow my nose. And a guy saw me hopping into the car and then just sat there waiting for me to go. And I'm like, oh, mate, I needed a moment. But I had to drive off. I mean, I didn't have to, but I would have felt like a jerk if I didn't. And I know how hard it is to get car parks at the hospital. So, yeah. The moral of the story is, if you're a long-term patient, I call myself a professional patient, stick with your guns. You know what's good for you. Last week I'd said to the lady, he said why, and I just said, I just find it works better for me. And yeah, like afterwards I did say, look, it hurt more. Yeah, and I don't know why I didn't think, hey, it did actually bruise. Made it more difficult to collect blood the next day because the bloods had come back with really low platelets. And I'm worried about that happening again and treatment being cancelled because last week's treatment got cancelled. Then the next day, the neutrophils. The neutrophils were absolutely fine. And yesterday I went to my GP and he gave me some antibiotics, but they're like 3 days worth of antibiotics. And I'm like, you know, when I had the pneumonia, and I don't think you call it the pneumonia, do you? When I had pneumonia, I had 3 courses of antibiotics and that's what hit it on the head. All these course one, I'm like, do I need to have more? Anyway, I've been like very determined to go up to the hospital if my temp gets to 38, but is not getting to 38. Anyway, so I hope that these antibiotics do something, but they're only 3 days worth of antibiotics. And I've woken up this morning feeling really, really horrible. In fact, I feel like I've got a new illness. I feel like it's a head cold all of a sudden, although I've still got stuff happening and gunk in my chest that I'm coughing up. But I'm just so sore in here and I've got such a huge headache. I need to go inside and check my temp. Anyway, I think I've talked long enough. Okay. That's showing the last. Okay, so that was my temperature, 38.1, not good. On the way to ED, Jonty's the taxi, and he'll just drop me off and then go and try and get a passport. Why?
Because I want to try and volunteer at the Olympics.
In Italy next year.
In the Winter Olympics. It'd be sick if I get accepted.
Yeah, so it would be very exciting. Anyway, I think we're going to go to the base because I reckon they're going to run a whole heap of tests and I don't want to pay for it. Okay, here I am with my frizzy hair. That hurt. Cannula in because they thought they might have to get 2 blood cultures, so they got a cannula and I'll use the port next. Here's this morning's efforts. A bit of a bruise there. Yeah, and just waiting and hoping I don't get admitted. Influenza A. And I rang Alex to come and pick me up, but Jonty's still in town, so I'll be able to get Jonty too. Alex is with Trent taking Roxy to the vet because he found a tick on Roxy today, so that's a problem. Okay, that's from the cannula. That's my pajamas. And that's from the blood test. Yesterday my hair was a bit crazy. It's slightly calmer today, but oh man, it is at a difficult length and it's just frizzing out everywhere. Anyway, Influenza A, I am feeling heaps better than I did yesterday. And yeah, just basically, sorry, I'm a bit distracted. I'm basically just trying to sit it out and trying to get better for the wedding on Saturday, because that's a big deal for our family. Imogen, however, is really sick. She was sick last week, but she's just gone downhill big time. Last night she came in and was looking really unwell, so she's been off school today. And yep, so nothing much to report. Sat and did nothing for ages this morning and then finally started feeling a little bit better, so folded some washing and it's almost time to go and pick the kids up. And yeah, I think the antiviral probably is going to help me get better quickly. So yeah, I feel like I'm going to be right for Sunday. As predicted, I think I did a video earlier. That's from the blood test. And that, it's got worse during the day, is from the cannula. And once again, I'm annoyed at myself because there's my port access, but they used a cannula. And I said, can you use the port? And she said, I can see a good vein there. And you probably will need 2 access points for a blood test, for 2 different blood tests. And I thought to myself, well, how about we access the cannula, the port? The problem was she couldn't access the port because not all, and especially the older nurses, haven't been signed off to access ports. So she was like, no, I reckon I can get this and you're probably going to need it. And I was thinking, well, shouldn't we access the port first? Because if we don't need to, then I've got the better one. Anyway, I let it, she seemed very confident and she seemed experienced, so I let her go ahead. She got it in, absolutely no problems, but I think I was talking to you and I went, ow, and it had just twinged. And then the longer I stayed there, the more and more it was hurting. So if I had stayed there and if they had given me antibiotics through a drip, I would have probably had to ask somebody to take that out and put a, use my port, because I think that the little vein just was not going to work for very much time in there. Anyway, that was that. Wasn't too bad up at the base hospital yesterday. I think I was there for 4 hours. Wasn't too bad for me, but it was busy there. Like everywhere you went, there were beds just lined up along walls. All the beds were full. The waiting room was full, but they just got in and saw me fairly quickly, and most of the time it was just waiting for results. So that was that.
I would love to think that these cockatoos are saying to you, subscribe to Caitlin's channel. So do what the cockatoos say, subscribe to my channel, and the next video, spoiler alert, do get to the wedding. So yay, and I'll show you a bit of that and keep telling you how I got over all the flu and what's happened since then. Of course, things are still happening. So sometimes I just wish that my life was a little less dramatic, but that's what it is. Okay, thank you so much. Like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.